try this again. Welcome to another episode of Mostly Peaceful Latinas. Yes. I'm your host, Bella.
And I am Linda, and I think they're saying that it's a go.
All right, now we're better. Okay, so please, there's 9 of you. There should be 9 likes on this video.
At least.
Unless one of the people watching is Billy Corbin, and then I don't expect you to watch it, but...
Which is probably him, actually.
If the other 8 of you can please like this video and help us get in the algorithm, like we were saying while we were muted, we're definitely, our numbers are still there because you people are, honestly, you guys are the best. So our numbers are there, but we're really trying to grow our into the algorithm. We want to be able to hit 10K over the next couple of months and really get to the next level with Mostly Peaceful. So if you guys can show us some support, we really appreciate it. Today, we are going to be having a conversation. So we didn't know exactly what to title the episode.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to do an in-depth dig, if you will, into Thomas Massie, but it's not just about Thomas Massie. It's about the cultural climate that is currently taking place around this war with Massie and Trump, and how much bigger it actually is than just Massie. So we'll probably end up retitling this at some point in the end, but like this video, you know, we're going to be talking about the AIPAC donors, and we're going to be talking about Trump threatening to primary him, and Massie's super libertarian stances that are pretty based very often. But we're also going to talk about how that comes together with DeSantis's campaign, the Puritan conservatives that have very much acted as another layer of opposition to President Trump and to MAGA. But please go ahead, share this.
I want to talk to you guys about...
Oh, I love it. Somebody's already calling us racist in the comments. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to block you. That's cute.
I want to talk to you guys about my experience on Instagram today as we wait for more people to get in, because I think it's kind of will relate into this conversation of the cultural war that's taking place, I think, within the right. And that can probably be an episode on its own. We can discuss that. But I want to talk about it right now because I have a headache of the insanity of Instagram today, which is kind of weird because usually it's X, but now all the hate, it's also transferring over to Instagram. And
that's how you know it's really penetrated.
You know it's real. So let me just, Bella, let me type because I can't type and talk.
So let's address the elephant in the room, right? Which is that it seems like lately, and these are trends that we're watching take place across several platforms, but we definitely saw it growing on X first. We should probably even say that it started growing in the Chan boards first, which is that everybody wants to talk about Israel.
And the Jews.
Everybody wants to talk about Israel and the Jews. And it seems like it doesn't even matter the context. Like, it's the only content that's going viral, the only content that's on your feed, the only comments that you get. Every single thing, it's about Israel and the Jews. And we definitely want to address that a little bit because we genuinely feel that we are watching a live psyop take place to create an internal opposition and within the right, create opposition for the right, in specific opposition towards President Trump and his MAGA agenda by this hyper fixation on the topic of Israel.
Right.
We're going to be as fair, not as fair as we possibly can. We're going to be incredibly fair because you guys know that we have been critical of foreign lobbies in American politics. Very much so. So I feel like we're probably very qualified people to have this conversation because there's nuance, and we've been critical of Israel's influence within AIPAC. American with AIPAC. We were critical when DeSantis signed HB 269, which were hate speech laws to protect against anti-Semitism.
Which we had an entire episode dedicated to that. I was called a Nazi by a representative here in Florida, Randy Fine, had to threaten him with a defamation lawsuit if he didn't remove his tweet. Because it is true that if you push back in certain whether it's BLM or whether it's, you know, hate speech laws for anti-Semitism, you are going to call a racist, you're going to call the bigot, and many times you're going to be an anti-Semite. However, as an example today, I make a funny post, what I like to call filler posts on Instagram. I don't really post every single day on Instagram. My account has been kind of stagnant in the last few years. Obviously, I was a little bit more active during the election, trying to get Trump elected. But I posted something today, which is an old article from August 2024, when last year, Ana Paulina Luna's video, she looked super hot in a MAGA bikini, went viral. That video is about 7 years old. Before she was even a congresswoman, before she had any kids, before I think she was married. Anyways, this really hot video of Ana Paulina Luna goes viral. And of course, all the Puritan Christian conservatives came to reprimand her and say that, you know, women shouldn't be wearing bikinis, etc. So I make this post today just because yesterday, I guess, PBD, Brett David, talked about it on his show and they mentioned me. And to my surprise, which was just supposed to be, the caption literally says, MAGA women are more attractive, or Republican women are more attractive than Democrat women. And you guys should go read the comments. I mean, it's just comment after, I mean, some of them that I deleted already and blocked these people. It was comment after comment about Israel, about Jews, about Ana Paulina Luna being bought for by the Israeli lobby. I mean, I'm getting attacked right now by a Hispanic man that's saying that I should go bust my eyes wide open for Donald Trump so that he can continue to send billions of dollars to, you know, Israel and Gaza. I mean, sorry, excuse my language, literally what he's telling me. Down my DM. I mean, I mean, it wasn't even a post about foreign policy. It wasn't a post about Israel. It wasn't a post about the war. It wasn't a post about even anything slightly political. To me, it was just a funny post, to be honest with you. But it has been received by so many different people, especially men, and just made the whole thing about Israel. And Ana Paulina Luna being bought for and paid for by Israel. So I asked the guy, he says, oh, there's plenty of proof. There's plenty of proof that, you know, she has been completely bought and paid for by Israel. And I said, what is the proof that you are talking about? Like, I want to see this so-called proof, right? And he says, well, she got $36,000 from AIPAC. Okay. AIPAC is an American Israeli lobby. A lot of people have a problem with AIPAC. We'll get into that later because Thomas Massie does not take money from AIPAC because they believe that it's Israel influencing American politics, right? Now, AIPAC is an American company. If you don't like that type of lobbying, you're going to change the laws. You're going to have to change the laws to get them banned, okay? But they are an American company. And I was explaining to some friends the other day about this. And I said, I know plenty of wealthy Jewish individuals who care about Israel, who care about these certain topics, who donate to AIPAC. They are Americans with Israeli backgrounds. It's not like Israel is directly putting funds into AIPAC. But if you have a nuanced take about this, then you are told that you are owned by Jews. I've been told that I'm owned by AIPAC, despite the fact that I'm not in Congress or the Senate, or I'm not an elected representative. I'm just a shit poster online that can't even get 25 views to me on the stream. I mean, seriously. But, you know, it's just, you know, I called her today and I was like, this shit is getting out of control. Like, we can't even post a video, a picture, anything that is even unrelated to the conversation without being attacked about this very same topic.
Well, I mean, it's dominating the entire thing. I saw a post yesterday and it was Kash Patel talking about gang members that had been arrested now that he's the head of the FBI. Yeah. And, you know, I went in to leave a comment, as I often do. I like to celebrate the wins that we have because I'm not a perpetual loser that likes to be stuck in a losing timeline. Right. I like to celebrate our wins. And when I went in, I was horrified, annoyed, mostly annoyed. Every single comment was, why are you keeping the Epstein comments from us? Is it Israel? Why are you keeping the Epstein documents from us? Is it Israel? Why are you keeping the Israel? Is it our greatest ally? They're in the comments, aren't they?
I got no, they're not in the comments. In my comment today, because somebody started, complaining about somebody asked, is Anna Paulina Jewish? She's not Jewish. She actually has a pretty German last name. We were talking about this on the chat with Anthony.
It depends on who you ask.
It depends on who you ask.
Because her Wikipedia page says that her father was
her great-grandfather.
That her father was a non-practicing Jew and that she was raised as a Messianic Jew.
Right.
And but the last name, like you mentioned, isn't a Jewish last name. It's a German last name, which is why the leftists will actually say that she's a Nazi, which seems to be a conundrum that a lot of people on the right end up being stuck in, where you'll have the unhinged right tell you you're owned by Israel, you're an Israel puppet, you're nothing but a honeypot, whatever it is. And then the people on the left are calling you a Nazi and the second coming of Hitler. So it's quite an interesting conundrum to be placed in, and almost like a catch-22 where it doesn't matter what you do or what you say, you can't win, which is very much the point of the PSYOP.
Yeah. So anyways, I wanted to start off with that because I thought that was pretty interesting and kind of very weird. I had somebody ask me if I was part of the Epstein files or if I was, what was it that they said? They said something like, I don't know, if I was hiding because I took part of the Epstein situation. And I'm not going to argue with these people anymore. So what I told them that I was like, yep, I flew to, Epstein's Island and we all drank blood and we all had orgies together. That's really what happened. So I don't even care. I don't want to engage. Honestly, it's making the internet kind of unbearable and just not fun anymore. Because if you're not Ian Carroll, if you're not Candace Owens, if you're not any of these really, really big conservatives, shitting on the Jews and shitting on Israel every single day, then, we're just kind of like...
Yeah, I had this conversation actually yesterday. Unfortunately, Ian Carroll didn't like what I had to say because he had made a comment of, oh, they tried to cancel me.
Right.
And, and I pushed back. And, he's talking about, obviously, him going on Rogan and talking about the conversation of blaming Israel for 9/11 and JFK and Epstein and literally everything else. And I made the comment like, dude, like you're not... No one's canceled you. It's number one, it's 2025. You don't know anything about cancel culture. If you would have been doing this in 2019, 2018, 2020, 2021, then you can talk to us about canceling. It's 2025. You're not canceled. In fact, you're thriving. You have a monetized brand. You just got off the biggest podcast and arguably in the entire world. I'd say you're far from being canceled. In fact, quite the contrary. You're talking about Israel, which has become a very easy way of gaining a following and getting people to engage with your content. I think it's something that's become very easily observable. There's people on the chat. I feel like, let me pull up this comment right here where it says, I even have influencers. I'm not quite sure who she is, Carmen Estelle, whom I thought was saying make everything about Israel. Well, I feel like all of us are watching influencers or political commentators that we knew, that we got along with, that or whose content we trusted, that have now gone off the deep end, and it's every single day making the conversation about Israel.
Every single day. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I've been attacked all day, and all I posted was Republican women are hotter than conservative women. That was it. But anyways, to get into our topic, which Bella did a lot of good work and research.
We did a lot of research onto it, and we want to talk a little bit about Thomas Massie. And I want to start off by playing a clip of Massie. And let me say, let's start off with this one which is based on the conversation, because I have a couple of clips that I want to go into, but let me put this one down for you guys. Guys, please like the video. We're begging you, get us on the algorithm, like the video, comment when it's done. And if you have a platform that you can share on, please share, let people know that we are live. Let's go ahead and play this video from Thomas Massie that is, I feel like inarguably, this was one of those points that this major shifts, cultural shifts, where Massie's name starts getting significantly more attention because of this conversation and topic.
Passages in the New Testament, if you will, would be banned by this international definition of anti-Semitism. For instance, saying that Jews killed Jesus, which is, in the Bible, he was not welcome among his own people. Okay. And so that would be anti-Semitism. And if you engaged in that on campus or just offered that as a thought, let's say in a classroom, you would be anti-Semitic and you would run afoul of the Department of Education and some federal laws. Last month, we voted like 15 or 16 times on issues related to Israel. And, I've been hit because I voted no on all of those.
Why because you hate Israel, or is there another reason?
No, because I'm against sending our money overseas. I'm against starting another proxy war. I'm against sanctions because it's going to weaken the dollar. I'm for free speech. Like all of these resolutions run afoul of those things. And that's why I can't vote for. And, there were other examples in there that were hard to believe. For instance, comparing the policies of Israel to the Nazi regime would be anti-Semitic. But the question is, what if their policies ever became the same? Is this a static definition?
Or what if we just have different opinions and your opinion is now a crime?
Right. I mean even if it's abhorrent,
even if it's wrong and stupid.
Yeah. It's still legal. It should be.
So your colleagues, I think it passed, right?
Oh yeah. It passed with.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause it there. But those of you that are followers of our show and you listen to our content, you'll know that during when did DeSantis sign HB 269? Was that 2021?
2022.
In 2022, DeSantis presented a bill in the Florida legislature, presented a bill called HB 269 that would have criminalized the passing out of flyers with anti-Semitic with any kind of anti-Semitism on it, which would have normally been like a littering charge. Now it's like a criminal hate speech.
Yeah.
And it was a felony.
Actually. Yeah.
And it was a huge deal. DeSantis went to Israel and he signed, Eli, when you get a chance, can you get me a C drive charger for my computer? Like a C port? Are you familiar with it?
I think.
I want to actually pull up this picture of DeSantis, Israel, HB 269, because we talked a lot about this and we opposed it significantly because we thought this was an infringement on
the First Amendment.
On the First Amendment, right? And to the argument that Massie very well stated, which I think that it's an important distinction to make and why Massie is so popular, we believe that there was a way that these anti-Semitic bills can be used to go against Christians. And very often what it's defaulted to is that when you have groups like the ADL, groups like AIPAC, that then also get to define what anti-Semitism means, these individuals will then in turn make things like Massie mentioned, is telling the story of the Bible. Does that become anti-Semitic? If the ADL believes that trans kids deserve whatever it is, and as a Christian you oppose that, are you considered anti-Semitic for opposing that? And that was very much our concern. And the problem is that there's not a lot of people who have the guts to talk about these things, because as Linda mentioned, when we did, we were attacked and we were called anti-Semitic, despite the fact of saying we think the behavior of the Goyim Defense League is abhorrent. We don't agree with the flyers. We think that it's ridiculous. You shouldn't be going into people's houses. Our fear always stands on, can this be weaponized against Christians? And it has to be recognized that Massie has been one of the few people that has had the guts to go out there and say these things. In fact, I'm not going to blast who it was, but we have a friend, a very serious friend, that referenced this particular, a very serious friend that referenced this particular interview, because it was shortly after this interview where Massie also mentions that he is the only member of Congress that doesn't have an AIPAC handler. I'm not sure if that's completely accurate, but he does mention that he's the only member of Congress that doesn't have an AIPAC handler. Massie's wife suffered a mysterious heart attack the day after that. She suffered a mysterious heart attack the day after that. And as a result, there's, of course, the conspiracy-minded nature of the internet that maybe he had been sent a sign. Now, we don't know that. That's all speculative, but it's still worth mentioning because one of the reasons why Massie gets the attention that he gets is because he takes these really grand stands at times where nobody else does. Now, that's going to bring us into the other part of the topics that we're talking about, which is principled conservatism.
Hold on. And let me just say that we have, I think he's here. Is Anthony here?
Oh, he is. He is. I can't
Bring him
believe
on.
it. I can't believe it.
We have our friend Anthony on the line.
I cannot believe
I think
it.
you can do it in 3. Right?
And
Like this?
Yeah,
That's
maybe.
the one I'm trying to go, but I don't know why it's cutting the image up like that.
Dale.
Hi, Anthony.
What's up, everybody?
No, that's not good.
No. Is it this one? Okay. Hey,
Hi.
Anthony, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I was just listening in on your friend that told you guys about the interview, and then something happened the next day.
Our very
Yes.
serious friend, you know?
Very
It's
serious.
Definitely our very serious
Yeah.
friend, Anthony.
I wonder who's there.
Anthony, so
How can
Yes,
we
ma'am.
hear him?
yeah, what's the best way? Hold on,
Hold
give
on,
us a
Anthony.
second because we weren't sure if you were hopping on, so we didn't get sound ready
How do
for
we,
this.
How can we
For
do I
sure.
just put one of the computers?
Yeah, I think that's the best way because
Yeah?
it won't pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. All right, Anthony, you're back on. So you're here to play devil's advocate with us as we talk about principled conservatives. I think a conversation that we've talked very, we've had plenty of conversations on this. Where do we pick up? So principled conservatism, right? These are the Ron DeSantises of the world, the people that tell you that we need to, in order to win, that we need to run to the right of President Trump, that we can't have no exceptions on abortions for rape or incest, no birth control,
Right.
no IVF. Individuals that believe that there shouldn't be any, I mean, some principles are good. No restrictions on our Second Amendment rights, no restrictions on our First Amendment rights. It all sounds great in theory because we do not live in a conservative silo. We have to coexist with insane liberals that have a very different ideology than us. And part of being a politician is doing the political thing, which means that sometimes you're going to have to give and you're going to have to take a little bit. Now, part of, and give me a second because I want to go ahead and bring up my notes here. So one of the things that we wanted to discuss, and we really wanted to be fair, Anthony, in our presentation of, is Anthony still there?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's on the line. He's there.
We really wanted to be fair in our presentation of Massie. And I think that, when you first start digging on Massie, it's really difficult to say that he's not out there doing base things, right? So he has a super absolute position on the Second Amendment. He's opposes red flag, has voted against them in every capacity, doesn't believe in universal background checks. Something that we can all agree is good. During COVID, he was one of the few people that really pushed back against COVID lockdowns and when all of Congress was at home, in particular with the CARES Act, something that he took a lot of heat for. But when everybody wanted to do a remote vote, it was Massie who required and demanded that there be a vote taken on the congressional floor on the CARES Act because he didn't. In fact, I think that I may even have a clip here. Let's actually play this.
Republic doesn't die by unanimous consent in an empty chamber, and I request, Mr. Speaker, I came here to make sure our republic doesn't die by unanimous consent in an empty chamber, and I request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise and remain standing until counted. An insufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is refused.
Mr. Speaker.
Is the gentleman recognized?
I object on the basis that a quorum is not present and make a point of order that a quorum is not present.
The chair will count for a quorum. Counted for a quorum is present. The motion is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Pursuant.
Yeah, that was already. I think that Linda plugged me in already. Thank you. Yeah, I think so. May have or didn't have. Sorry about that, guys.
No, you're good.
So Anthony, talk to us a little bit, like on your perspective. Do you feel that anybody knew who Thomas Massie was before he had the interview with Tucker and said that he was the only member of Congress? And I mean, logically, a lot of people knew who he was when you're politically inclined. But do you feel like that was kind of like his big welcome to the stage after his Tucker interview, where he said he was the only member of Congress that didn't have an AIPAC handler?
Yeah, so I think that with him, his come to stage moment was really when he voted against the omnibus bill. The when we were doing the pandemic, and obviously you had President Trump wanted to pass this spending package, and we wanted to get checks to Americans. And I know we've talked about this before, where it's like, he's more libertarian minded. He's more Ron Paul. It seems like he's always voting against everything. People are like, look, he's just there, kind of taking up a seat. But I think that it's important to remember, and I know it might sound perhaps a little nerdy, but the people in the movie that turn out to be the heroes, or that turn out to be, are the people that kind of go against the grain, not necessarily the people that fall in line. It's kind of like, you think of like those ninja movies where everyone wants to please the master, and like, yes, sensei, we'll do whatever you take. But then you have like that troublesome kid that comes from like a troubled childhood, etc., and he kind of does things unorthodox, and he's like, no, like, I'm going to do it this way. He's kind of one of those people. And I think that people like him are important, not necessarily to be in mass, meaning like we don't need half of Congress to be that. We need a couple of people like him, because they are a reminder to the Republican Party of, hey guys, we made promises. We need to follow through with those promises. If all you have is kind of like yes men, then, not saying that Donald Trump is a bad leader or bad president, then it's going to make him believe that he's just always doing everything correct all the time, and that he can do no wrong. You don't need yes men. You need people like Massie just kind of reminding people, because here's the reality. You can afford to have a Thomas Massie. You can afford to have a Rand Paul, because yes, we do have a very slim majority in Congress, in the House, but again, they're there as reminders, as saying like, hey guys, yes, we are in charge, but we want to make sure that we're doing good things with our constituents. I know that one of the problems that people have with Massie is obviously he did endorse, or was at least supportive of Ron DeSantis as a more principled conservative. But again, I don't think Thomas Massie was necessarily in line with Ron DeSantis because he was a principled conservative. I think Thomas Massie is more libertarian. I don't know how his social, like, I don't know how, if he's socially conservative as well. I don't think he's really talked on banning abortion per se, which is something that Ron DeSantis was a little bit stronger on. I think that he was just looking at the fiscal conservatism. But again, I don't necessarily agree with him. Linda, you posted something on Twitter, or X rather, and I told you, look, I don't agree with him endorsing DeSantis over Trump. I think Trump was a better pick. And I'm glad that I stuck to that, because as we can see what Ron DeSantis is doing, I think a lot of it is for the optics. I think the fact that President Trump has now endorsed Byron Donalds, and then now you have Ron DeSantis saying, Byron Donalds hasn't really accomplished much. He should just focus on Congress. You can just tell there's animosity there, right? So.
Yeah, I think that's, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because for a long time, I think that people called Linda and I crazy for pointing out that there was consistent animosity between Trump and DeSantis, no matter how cordial it seems on the main stage. And I
there
think
still is, like, they don't like each other at all. This is like a fact.
Yeah, there's definitely animosity. I think that that's going to come out more clearly now with the primaries, right?
Primary,
with the midterms, once we get into these midterm primaries, because with the last election cycle, people could just be like, well, we don't know if Trump was going to go to jail, and he just jumped in, and it's like he has every right to go. But like now, there's really no need for you to oppose Trump in his endorsement, unless it's his wife, I guess. But
can I just give you guys my conspiracy theory, which I did share on
absolutely,
X, which is that I believe that the reason why, yes, Thomas Massie has been a principled conservative libertarian and opposing Trump since COVID. However, I believe that the main reason why he's doing this right now is because there needs to be a distinction between MAGA and the Ron DeSantis base, which is what they've been trying to do in the last 2 years since they won the re-election. And I believe that Massie or Massie, whatever, is auditioning for the role of VP come 2028. And so we have a huge base, and we saw this. I mean, him, Chip Roy, and I forgot the other one. There's like a third one that's always sticking by Ron DeSantis, whatever. I know it's those two for sure. They always stick by DeSantis. They endorse him during the primary. And if you look at the people who always stick by Thomas Massie, yes, there's people that kind of intertwine with the MAGA base, but a lot of them go towards the DeSantis crowd. And those are the people that are constantly telling us how much better it would be if we had, you know, all members of Congress were just like Thomas Massie. To me, the problem is that a lot of people, wait, there's somebody saying that our mics, are you sure it's not, is it our mics or is it your sound?
I can hear you guys just fine,
You guys
personally.
can hear me? Okay, so Tom, and maybe your sound, if you want to turn it up a little bit. But yeah. Okay. So let's address this comment right here. All right. Thomas Massie is the only person not owned by Israel, right? Is that what he's saying?
Allegedly.
Well, you know what's interesting. You know what's interesting about that. Well, two things, because I don't want to forget what you just said. You can leave the question up, but
Right.
one of the things that you said is that there are some people that say that we need more Thomas Massies in Congress. I personally don't know if Thomas Massie. I'm going to side on the side of I don't really think he's auditioning for VP. He's already stated that his intention is to get up to Senate because I think it's a lot easier for him to kind of swoop in and be like that one senator. I don't agree that we need more congressmen like Thomas Massie, because here's the reality, and this is something that I've talked to a lot of my audience members about, is sometimes we have to learn to compromise to get ahead. And Thomas Massie has proven that he's the kind of person that he'll never compromise. I mean, I guess in some issues, because he did vote with Democrats under President Biden, right? But he kind of answered the question when they asked him, why did you vote for the continuing resolution with Biden? And he said something that there was a stipulation that we were going to spend like $100 billion less in something that he wanted. And so that's why he voted for it. Again, we have to do our research with that and make sure that that's accurate. But that was what his defense was. I will reiterate that I do believe that Thomas Massie is the kind of person that reminds us of what the Republican Party fiscal conservatism should be. A lot of people, I think, wrongfully accuse him of being anti-Israel. I think he's just anti-foreign intervention. Obviously, he's a congressman. He knows that saying something like every congressman has an AIPAC handler. But then today I was actually reading a thread, and I have to get back to it, and I can send it to both of you, that supposedly one of the biggest donors to Thomas Massie is actually a Jewish man that owns a company.
We're going to bring this
Yeah.
up.
We actually brought it up, and I will actually bring this up. So
which is also why we bring up DeSantis, and why we were bringing, I don't know if you were part of the stream earlier when we first started, which is that Ron DeSantis flew over to Israel to sign laws against free speech for the state of Florida. I mean,
that were lobbied by AIPAC.
Right? Like,
that were lobbied by AIPAC.
And not just AIPAC, ACLU, like a lot of liberal, very progressive
Jewish
organizations. So how could you, how could you say that this man, okay, fine, he doesn't take money from AIPAC. By the way, I just want to clarify, Anthony, whether you like it or not, AIPAC is not an Israeli lobbying organization. AIPAC is an American-Israeli organization. And I know people don't think there's any difference because they just want to say that, Jews control everything and, Israel controls everything. But there is a difference, right? Because you and I both have friends and people that we know who are Americans that are Jewish, or Americans with Israeli backgrounds, right? Leila Center happens to be one of them. I'm sure she probably donates to AIPAC. I'm sure she does, because a lot of rich people do. So
it's still a conversation, because realistically, that opens up the other conversation, right? Which is, should AIPAC be registered as a foreign agent? Because, I mean, again, this is the conversation that's taking place right now, right? Which is, should AIPAC have a say? I'm against all foreign lobby, period.
Yeah, I think that there was I don't know if you guys saw the post where it showed like the top 10 countries that have influence in our politics, and number one was like China, at like 300 million or something like that. And then all the way at the bottom was Israel. Granted, a lot of people say the reason is because AIPAC is not registered as that foreign government entity. I forget what it's called. I don't know if it's called foreign agent exactly, but I think it's called like foreign government organization or something like that. That is essentially lobbying on behalf of Israel. And so if you add in AIPAC money, then I think you would have more money. But yeah, but to your point, Linda, where you were talking about, well, wait a minute, Ron DeSantis, how could Thomas? I guess the argument is you can't support
grandstanding for the sake of grandstanding to energize a particular section of the base, or is he really this super authentic individual as it comes out? And can he say that when he supports somebody like Ron DeSantis for president?
Well, here's the thing:
And
is
he has
two things.
Jewish mega donors.
Which let me actually bring that up, Anthony. While you're making that comment, I just want to bring up this article to the point that actually, let me remove this really quick, and I want to show you guys this. Let me share my screen. Here we go. So Jeff Jazz is one of Massey's highest donors, and I think that he's contributed something like $32,000 throughout all of the terms, not just the most recent one. But here you are. Jeff Jazz is one of his biggest supporters, and here he is, an article highlighting how much money he donated to pro-Israel organizations and for to speak against these anti-Muslim groups, right? Which are pro-Israel interchangeable, I guess, at this point. But if Trump did something like this, which we know that it's the conversation that we have often, where they're like, oh well, what's Trump's Jewish donor that
Miriam Adelson.
Miriam Adelson. So when Miriam Adelson donates money to Trump, immediately they're like, Trump is owned by the Jews because Miriam Adelson is his top donor and she's Jewish. So logically, the only explanation is that Trump is owned by the Jews, right? Which is a conversation that everybody wants to have. But then it seems like when it comes to Massey, are we going to address the fact that one of his top donors, despite the fact that his smaller contributions, because it is a smaller race, is also a Jewish man that's vested in Jewish interest, as Jewish people should be, which then opens up a conversation, Anthony, and I want to ask you this question because it's something I've been telling Linda about, that it's kind of like a maturing realization that I've had, which is, do you think that a lot of the anger against the Israel, lobby, the Israel lobby, we'll call it AIPAC, ACLU, ADL, so on and so forth. Do you think that part of the frustration and aggravation with that lobby is the fact that the Christian lobby falls short so often?
I mean,
there is no Christian lobby per se.
I mean, we have the Catholic organizations getting caught spending tens of millions of dollars on illegal immigrants and housing illegal immigrants, as we had Catholic pregnancy centers vandalized here in Florida when we had Christians being put in prison for praying outside of pregnancy centers. Like, do you think that a lot of it do you think that it has more so to do with just the control that the Jewish lobby has, or the lack of representation that Christians have when it comes to lobbying in general?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of wanted to reel it back a little bit because you did share a very interesting article, and this is something that has been kind of going trending today on socials. So what you brought up is that it seems Thomas Massey has a donor, right, that happens to be Jewish and very pro-Israel. But I think that article actually proves the point that I said earlier. In the fact that Thomas Massey also supported Ron DeSantis, who went to Israel to sign anti-Semitic speech laws, right? That, to me, just proves further what I've held since day one. It's not that Thomas Massey is anti-Israel. So it's kind of like a good thing both on the left and the right. In that I mean is the left wants to come and attack Massey, and the right wants to come out and say, that's why we support him, because he doesn't have this AIPAC handler or whatever, something that he claimed that every member of Congress has, for example. What that shows to me is that it's not about not taking Jewish money or Israeli money. It's just about he was a non-interventionist. So maybe the argument could be had that that AIPAC donates to congressional people that would support and send money to the state of Israel. He's not that. It's not that, and this is what I think the right gets so wrong. It is people want to falsely tie him to like, oh, look, he's trying to kind of become the leader of like this sect of the right and the left, that he's anti-Israel. I don't personally think he's anti-Israel at all. I think he's just, I want to stop giving money. And I think the fact that he has a Jewish donor and the fact that he supported DeSantis that flew to Israel to send Israel proves that. And I think that's also his message is like, dude, it's not that I'm anti-AIPAC only, I'm anti-everything. But that's just like a classic libertarian. But of course, that's going to be the one thing that catches with people on the left and the right. It's like, oh, wow, look, he said this thing about AIPAC. Sure. But then listen to the rest of the podcast. He says he's non-interventionist. He says he wants all wars to end. He says he wants the U.S. to stop funding all wars. But of course, people are just going to grab that one soundbite and people are going to use it for whatever they want. People on the right and the left are going to be like, oh my gosh, he's anti-Jewish, he's anti-Israel. No, he's not. And clearly that defines him, right? But what your question was is, are people that are upset about AIPAC in the way they donate and the influence they have? I'll be very honest. Like when I saw AIPAC donated, what was it, how much has AIPAC donated to Donald Trump? I think it was like $1 million or something like that, like total.
So I know that these little infographics are going around with numbers, but I've actually looked at them and those numbers are not accurate because they take like literally a Jewish donor that does AIPAC and then they'll add it all up. So I don't even trust those calculations with those numbers anymore because I did a dig into some of the claims that they were making of how much money Trump took and it wasn't accurate. However, I will tell you this because I did take a look at their contributions for the 2024 election cycle, and what I found was that AIPAC had a standard donation of anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 per candidate, 15 being the peak, 12,000 being median. And I gotta be honest with you guys, that's not we own you money.
Wait, that's exactly what I said today, where somebody came to me to tell me that they have proof that Anna Paulina was owned by Zionists, and I said, what's the proof? Because I don't know if you heard earlier in my stream, I made a funny post, which is an old, I don't even know why I made it. I was just trying to do filler content. The article that features me, Anna, and Rep. Lauren Boebert says, you know, Christian women are asking Republican women to cover up or something. I honestly, I just thought it was funny. But under the comments, it was just, Anna's a Jew, Anna's owned by Zionists, Anna is owned by, you know, Israel. When I asked this one guy, what proof do you have that Anna is owned by Zionists and Israel? He says AIPAC donated $36,000. I'm like, do you know what people can do with $36,000? Let me tell you guys something.
Across every cycle, by the way.
Even
that's like one event.
It cost about $10,000 to have a mailer campaign for a very small district, for like a school board a race, which is a very tiny race. Okay, $10,000. At minimum, that's at the low level, right?
End.
Now think about what you need to win a congressional seat. Think about that. You're competing with so many people. You're competing against Democrats that have so much money to spend. Radio ads, TV ads, social media ads, t-shirts, door knockers, phone bankers. I mean, I'm talking about thousands of dollars. Shani, thank you. You can't even have a shitty wedding for $30,000. I mean, seriously, there are some people out there who charge $20,000, Anthony knows, for a speaking fee. Renting a banquet hall for 100 people could cost you a lot of money. And you think being owned by Israel is $36,000 fucking dollars?
Across 3 election cycles.
What are we looking at?
That's important because that means
what are we looking at here?
$10,000
What are we doing here? I can't take people like this seriously anymore. I can't, because you're literally, I just $36,000. I thought he was going to say some like crazy shit.
Well, no. And then they'll look at, so for example, Trump's number is the number of any Jewish aligned organization from the inception of his campaign in 2015, which was already 10 years ago, three of the largest presidential races, probably most controversial races, where the Democrats have thrown the most money to oppose him ever in the history of politics. So yeah, it took a lot of money. And you know what? And this was an argument in a conversation that I was having with Linda yesterday, that they come and you'll have a lot of these people come and there'll be the comments, oh, Trump has really changed, he's really bowing down to Israel this time, it's not like his first term. Excuse me, were you here for his first term? Trump is inarguably has and will remain one of the most pro-Israel president ever in the history of the United States of America. He is very much a Zionist. He was the first president to go touch the wall as an active president. He gave Israel the money for their Superdome, recognized their Jerusalem as their as the capital, signed this college thing that's going on right now, guys. This has been going on since 2019 when he signed the first EO making anti-Semitism laws in college campuses. This isn't new. He's got Jewish grandchildren. He lived, I hate to break this to you guys, he lived in Palm Beach, between Palm Beach and Fifth Avenue, New York.
That's full of
What
Jews.
kind of people do you think he was around, if not a lot of Jewish people? So my problem is when you say something...
He's a social justice warrior. He was the first person in Palm Beach to open up a private club to Jews and blacks when they used to discriminate against them. So, I mean, we can go down like 20 years.
And the entire history shows that Trump is very much a Zionist, a pro-Israel Zionist. So here's the thing. If Israel, like it seems for almost everybody on the internet today, in every single comment, on every single board, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. You could be talking about hot babes and bikinis. Now we're going to turn it about the Jews. Everything turns into a conversation about the Jews and Israel, the Jews and Israel. If Israel was your single issue, why on God's green earth would you vote for Donald Trump?
I'm just hoping that my Jewish handler can give me a better car. Because I mean I'm very grateful.
Yours isn't very Semitic, to be honest with you.
It's not giving AIPAC money.
It's not giving AIPAC money
owned by Jews. It's giving pretty modest. So
well,
I don't
here's what I'll say, and I'll kind of bring it back to like Thomas Massie.
Yeah.
We solve all of this if we just stop lobbying in general, whether it's corporate. And I think that's where like most people can come into agreement. Doesn't matter if you're a libertarian, doesn't matter if you're a left-wing populist, doesn't matter if you're a Republican. I think for the most part, and the general sense of most voters is just get rid of lobbying completely. It shouldn't be on companies, oil companies, corporate companies, foreign governments. I mean, dude, like I when I saw that graph that China has so much influence over not only that, they own so much land next to U.S. military bases. What the hell?
Milwaukee company
like, it's insane.
That did a thing for.
Yeah, the Milwaukee Tool. You hear Milwaukee Tool and you're like, yeah, absolutely, I'll buy American made. And then it turns out that like their entire operations is based out of Hong Kong.
Literally.
So you're just like, wait a minute, what?
Crazy.
So I think that the way to fix this, regardless of how you feel of, oh, well, I hate this company, I hate this company. If you just get rid of lobbying in general, which I think was Thomas Massie's point, is not necessarily honing in on having an AIPAC, because I remember when he said that, right, to Tucker Carlson, saying everyone's got a AIPAC person, right, AIPAC handler. There were a lot of great threads online on Twitter that said, that's kind of a stupid thing to say because everyone has an everything handler. Everyone has a Chinese lobbyist. Everyone has Republicans. Every Republican has an oil lobbyist. Oh, I got to call them to make sure that this is not going to go against them. I mean, it just makes sense to me. Like, look, you don't have to like it. But this is where like I also clash with my audience where I'm like, dude, you don't have to like it. But like, just put yourself in that position. If you're about to, let's say an oil company that wants to drill, baby drill, they donated $20,000 to your campaign. It's not going to be, oh, I win the election because of this money, but it's going to help, sure. And are you going to be beholden to them now? Not necessarily. You can always vote against them, but then don't expect the money next time around. But the thing, no, and I was just going to finish it with this is if you got 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 from the oil company, and you're about to vote on a bill that maybe you're not too sure if this bill is going to hurt the company that donated to you or not, what are you going to do? You're going to call the lobbyists and you're going to be like, hey, what's up with this bill? What are you guys hearing? What do you think? Should we be voting this way or not? I mean, dude, this is just the way politics works, which is why, again, the solution would be just get rid of lobbying. Here's the reality. And I'm not trying to tiptoe. I'm not trying to scapegoat. I don't want Israeli influence in our government. I don't want people with two citizenships. I don't want dual loyalty. But I also don't
have
want
two citizenships.
Well, good, but you're not a member of Congress, and you're not passing legislation for $100 billion to Colombia every single year, right, or whatever. So that's different. But outside of just Israel, also China, also Ukraine, also everywhere else. So that's where I just don't get hung up on it. It's just like you guys are right. Everyone just wants to talk about Jews and Israel, and I'm just like, bro, just everybody. That's why I say, dude, I'm Thomas Massie. Stop honing in on just the one thing and trying to call me an anti-Semite for it. I just want to get rid of all of it, man. When I say I'm America first, I mean it. I want America first. Look, man, you guys know this as immigrants as well. My mother came from Mexico. My mom and I are not worried about how this Congress and how much money my mom just came back from a trip to Mexico, and my uncles are giving her all this crap because of all the tariffs and the border and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, I can't believe your president is doing this. And she's like, good that he's doing that. I'm glad that he has a strong border policy. I'm glad that he's putting tariffs on Mexico. And I'm glad that he's exposing your crappy president who's in bed with the cartel. That's my mom, a Mexican national. You know what I mean? And now she's an American citizen. That's how every American should be. When we have Jewish people in America and there's people exposing the Israeli government or lobbying, they should be like my mom and be like, good. I'm glad that we're getting rid of AIPAC money. I'm glad that we're getting rid of lobbying. I don't want that. I live in America. Right. And I would say that for everybody. It's like the people argue, that are out there protesting Ukraine with these giant Ukraine flags.
Here in Miami, we have a bunch of them.
It's insane. And I'm just what are we doing, bro? If you love Ukraine so much, go back to your country.
Well, and the same thing about the Palestinian people.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. So people say, oh, so that's your position on Israel. So clearly you must be pro-Palestine. That's why you guys know that meme from Star Wars where it's like, oh yeah, I'm anti-Israel. And then the girl says oh, that means you're pro-Palestine, right? And then you just say quiet and you're like, right? Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I don't care for either. You know what I mean? And it's not that I don't care. Dude, I get there's a war going on. I get that innocent people died. I get that. What I am just saying is what we elected Donald Trump to do. We don't want to intervene. Me personally, I don't want a Trump Gaza strip. Just leave it alone, man. Let them deal with it.
With the Trump Gaza stuff, as many of us expected, that was really just a negotiation tactic.
And it worked.
Today, I was on a news hit for some Spanish news, and the lady was trying to get me about the tariffs, and he's like, oh, you don't think this is too aggressive? And I go, that's the way that Donald Trump negotiates. And if you read the Art of the Deal, you can see that, way back to his entire business career as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, this is the way that he negotiates. So with the Gaza stuff, a lot of us, myself included, I've asked people, why is it that it's the United States of America that has to be the one to take care of this problem? You have so many rich, filthy rich Arab nations surrounding that country or that piece of land. And why can they rebuild it? Why can they take care of their people? People get upset about that. But guess what? Now we find out that the Arab nations, in fact, do not want a Trump Mara Gaza, and they don't want a Trump resort in the Mediterranean Ocean or whatever that is, the Dead Sea, I think. And they are actually getting $51 billion to rebuild Gaza themselves because they just, it makes a lot more sense. So a lot of times we see Trump saying crazy things. Today he said he was going to put a 200% tariffs on all European Union products, including champagne. And I'm thinking to myself, we have Miami Music Week coming up, and I know for a fact champagne is like
Top seller.
top seller, you know, people are going to be very upset. Bar owners, restaurant owners, clubs owners are going to be very pissed. But I think, you know, it's just a way of him leveraging with, you know, our partners or enemies. And then they'll come back and say, we're going to come to the table. We're going to negotiate. Another last thing that I know you want to say something, but I want to talk a little bit about the Cuban lobby. Because if you're in Miami, the Cubans here are very powerful. They're literally a mafia, and they'll get upset if you call it a mafia, but I say that as a good thing. I don't say it as a negative thing, right?
They're the ones that are really in charge, by the way. Nobody
the
talks
ones that
about
are
those
really
damn
in charge.
Cubans.
I mean, they're the
And-
ones driving Florida politics. Don't for one second think it's Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, it's not Ron DeSantis. It's really the South Florida Cubans. And they have their own lobby. And they organize and they unite together and they help each other out. And they have a very similar model to that of Jewish people and that of the Israeli lobby. Obviously not as big.
I wouldn't call it the same model, and I'll tell you why. Because I think I mentioned this to you yesterday.
Do they get shit
Cubans
done?
here, they get shit.
Okay.
It can be comparable in the sake where it gets things
Right.
done.
They
However,
get
when you're
shit
looking
done.
at AIPAC, here's the big difference between the two lobbies, both powerful,
Right.
two different drivers. You've got the Israel lobby is all about protecting Israeli interests
Right.
in the United States.
Yeah.
The Cuban lobby is almost like need to protect the freedoms of the United States of America because they fled communism. You don't very often see outlandish requests coming from the Cuban lobby for the US like, oh,
No.
go into Cuba and liberate them. On the contrary, you'll hear people like Rubio, like Jimenez say, keep the sanctions. Don't
Right.
give them a cent. Don't let them do business with us because they prioritize. The difference between is that with the Cuban lobby, the priority is very much protecting the American dream, the land of the free, the land that gave them the opportunity to come over here and now sit in Congress, sit in political office, as opposed to the Israel lobby or any other lobby that has a very
just
specific
Israel
personal
interest,
interest to
right.
the Israeli. And that's why I would say that it's different.
But as far as like them helping each other out,
Very united.
and exactly
Very united.
that's what I mean. That's why we have Carlos Jimenez, Manuel Vila Salas, our senator. You know, he's no longer a senator. Now he's Marco Rubio, what is he?
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State. So these, you know, my point in saying that, it's not to excuse the Israel lobby. I'm sure we didn't have any lobbies, including the sugar lobby, including the freaking climate change people, the oil
Pharma.
people, etc. But if Christians, it's a free market economy, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere because the majority of people making the noise, Candace Owens, Ian Carroll, I don't know,
Literally everyone's sister, Myron Gaines,
Myron
so
Gaines,
Andrew
you know, Andrew
Tate.
Tate. They have a lot of influence and power online, which, as we have known, doesn't always translate into real life politics. So I think that if Christians and, you know, white people are very upset about the whole Jewish situation or whatever, then they're gonna have to compete in the free market and
they don't.
have their own foreign lobby and not foreign lobby, sorry, their own lobbying for their own interests. And I mean, I think that's the most, I don't know, like most attainable solution to the problem, because this is just not going away. Now, I'll play devil's advocate and say, for example, where Jewish people fall a little short, if anyone's Jewish here, this is good for you to hear. We have this very small cinema on the beach, in Miami Beach, called the O Cinema. The mayor of Miami Beach is an Orthodox Jewish guy. I personally like him because he has put law and order in Miami Beach. When he was elected, I was at his election party. I got an exclusive interview with him last year in March for spring break, when the entire news cycle had turned against him, called him a racist for having very strict measures on Miami Beach, which I personally agree with. But now he has decided to target this very small movie theater in Miami Beach because they are airing a Palestinian film. Apparently this film has actually was part of the Oscars, right? I think it was like nominated or won. I mean, I don't really care about any of his stuff at all because I don't watch the Oscars. But I know that it's a big deal. And now he has decided to target this very small cinema and say that he's going to cancel their lease. So what does that look like to the average person, especially in the climate that we're in right now?
Yeah.
How do you think that looks like, right?
No, yeah,
It's
of
not-
course.
It's not
people
good
are going to react
PR.
to that.
It's not good PR for Jews. It's not good PR for Jews in power, like the mayor of Miami Beach. And it just makes it seem once again like we are going to reinforce this type of narrative that they control stuff, that, you know, they'll cancel you if you don't walk and talk a certain way. I like this guy. I've had tweets about it. I say, you know, ever since we got this Orthodox Jewish guy on the beach, things have never been better. Even spring break, I was telling Bella, you don't see the ghetto crowds anymore. Literally, all I have seen in the last 2 weeks of spring break has been white boys with the freaking Vipers, and it's been no killings, no stabbings, nothing. Law and order. But targeting a small business or a small theater over the Palestinian conflict just makes you look like a Marxist.
Okay, but I'm gonna have to play devil's advocate, and I'm gonna have to come in here right now and make a defense for our greatest ally, which is the following. We can say all of things that would have been true when you're looking at an unfair battleground, but I think it's undeniable that there is a rise in anti-Semitism. And it's crazy that that's even a controversial thing to say, because now we're in a position where if you say that out loud, then you're bought by Israel, you're bought by the Jews, you're just doing the work of Jeffrey Epstein. But the reality is that the political climate that we're in right now, it's almost gone mainstream to blame everything on the Jews.
It's true.
So I can't even be upset that they feel like, holy shit, like we're in the middle of panic mode, because there has been an uptick in this hate-driven narrative towards Jewish people. And what's happened is that now it discredits everything. Now, if you're a politician and you've ever stood next to a Jewish person, you're discredited. If your organization has Ana Paulina being the perfect example of it. The thing with Ana Paulina Luna is actually so insane to me, because she's one of us, right? Like, she started off like one of us. She was a shit poster, and she was waking people up.
She sacrificed her medical career to be a doctor, to now be called a foreign asset for Israel and be told that, you know, call
and
a
it's all
whore
and
all
what
these
it all
things.
comes down to is all it took was somebody like Myron Gaines to put out a post of a picture of her standing next to Netanyahu, which is a world leader at the end of the day. I don't know,
Shit,
a
I'll
lot of
take a
people
picture
that
with
would have
Netanyahu. I'll
taken,
take a picture
I
with
would
Joe
absolutely
Biden.
would.
I don't care.
Which is a world leader at the end of the day. And they took, Myron posted this picture, and he's like, well, her Wikipedia says she had a Jewish father. Here she is standing next to Netanyahu.
Oh,
She
we're
took
never
X
getting the
amount.
Epstein files.
We're never gonna get the Epstein files because she's working for Epstein and she's trying to cover it up. Like, you have to be simple-minded, smooth brain, short-sighted to believe that. You have to understand that the history that exists of Ana Paulina Luna, who's somebody who was smeared during both of her races as a conspiracy theorist who believed in really crazy things like human trafficking and aliens, and she just can't be taken seriously, because why would we ever elect somebody like that? Somebody who's been a staunch Donald Trump supporter, has never stumbled in her support with Donald Trump, has made her entire political career around being MAGA and being supportive of Donald Trump. And now what we're watching happen is that it's the Jews narrative goes in, and you've got this woman who has always prioritized. I couldn't imagine a better person on that board. Let me just finish the statement. I couldn't imagine a better person off that board. Now, the most trustworthy person, a person that's been loyal to Donald Trump, a person that's been loyal to us, that doesn't think that people that talk about these things are crazy, because she's one of them. And you have her getting attacked like if she was Hillary Clinton after the Podesta email drop, because of a process that's outlined in an executive order and that is still being processed, is still being viewed exactly like that, all because she stood next to a Jewish person. And I think that it's a really easy way to discredit Donald Trump, who we all just went over, is a Zionist, is pro-Israel. So if you make your entire personality, if the only trending topic on the internet is Israel bad, Jews ma bad, then what ultimately happens is Trump is bad. Because Trump is pro-Israel, and Trump is pro.
Yes, that is it, Bella. Yeah. Literally, I just got told by a mutual follower that I was going back and forth with, this Hispanic guy, that he's like, "Fuck you, fuck your president, go sim for Israel, get our money back." I'm like, where the hell is this even coming from? Like, I don't even know. I haven't made a post about anything relatable to any of this, so I'm kind of shocked at this unprovoked attack. But, you know, Anna Paulina, right after she won her re-election campaign this past November, the Democrats came out to say that they had just created a brand new PAC to target her specifically. And I forgot the other Florida Republicans, Maria Elvira being another one. Her and Maria Elvira, and I think it was two more people. She hadn't even been back in Congress for 2 days before they said, we are going to target this specific congresswoman and these other people because they're that effective, and we want to start flipping Florida blue again. So just take that into consideration for the people that just want to,
how easy it is. Well, and then also think it's like, oh, because I love my new favorite one is like, oh, you just haven't read enough.
Oh yeah,
you just haven't gone down the rabbit hole. You haven't gone down the rabbit hole enough, Isabella. You need to read more, because if you did, then you'd realize that the Jews are behind everything. Okay, let's take the first conspiracy to ever exist, which was the assassination of President JFK. Which apparently now the only answer that you guys will take is that it was the Jews. Okay, first of all, let's start off. The CIA was created before Mossad was. Number one, Mossad didn't create honeypotting. Mossad is the intelligence agencies for the Israeli government. I'm sure most of you know, because since everybody hates Israel right now and everybody hates Mossad. The CIA, our intelligence agency, was created before Mossad was. Mossad didn't invent honeypotting. It's something that happens in all intelligence agencies. It's why Jeffrey Epstein was best friends with the Prince of the UK. It's why he was hanging out with the President of the United States of America. Why he had connections with powerful people in government in Canada. Why he was, why somebody like Robert Maxwell had connections with the KGB, because it wasn't just espionage for a foreign government. It was just espionage. You collect dirt on powerful people, and you've got a network of other powerful people willing to pay very powerful money to get access to the secrets that you have. So my issue with what's going on right now with Ana Paulina is that JFK files come out. What if you guys find out that it was our own government? What if you guys find out that the CIA was involved in it? What if we find out that Lyndon B. Johnson was a part of it, the president that took over, the vice president at the time that JFK was shot that took over? Well, will you accept that? The problem is, and now we're in a position where even if that ends up being the truth, files get released, it won't be good enough. Because the files don't say that it was Israel and solely Israel. And as a result, you're never going to be happy. Let's take 9/11. It's been documented for years. You guys want to say, well, the dancing Israelis, okay, that may be true. But do you think that happened without the consent of the American government? Do you think that the CIA was completely oblivious to the fact that this was going to happen when we have proof that the CIA in the 1950s thought of a plan called Northwoods, where they discussed crashing commercial airlines into American buildings so that they can justify going to war with Cuba? That was just Mossad. Northwoods, the fact that Northwoods is an operation that was invented in the minds of the American CIA. And this is what my problem is, that I feel that the Jewish conversation, the Israel conversation, has come to a point where if you're just standing next to somebody that's Jewish, everything now is tainted, where you distrust everything. You distrust anybody that's taking Jewish donor money. You distrust everybody that's with Jewish organizations. Anybody who's nice to Jewish people. You can't even stand next to somebody who had a father that was Jewish, despite the fact that Ana Paulina Luna is a Christian. That's not enough. It's not enough for you. So what's ended up happening now is that the only rabbit hole that matters is Israel. And as a result, nothing has validity anymore.
I thought it was pretty ridiculous when Mossad pulled what I thought was a great operation of blowing up, I don't know, the terrorist beepers. I mean, shit, that's fucking pretty badass. But I guess we can no longer, appreciate these types of operations, because for some reason our the right wing has just turned into like terrorist apologists, I suppose. I don't really know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm letting you guys know right now. You can get mad at me. Call me Shabbat Shalom. I am never, ever in my entire life going to side with the people that chant death to America.
Yeah. Anthony, I want to get your opinion on the Muslim guy that is the Muslim student from Columbia University, whatever his name is, Mossad, something.
Mossad. No, yeah, for sure. So this is another prime example of like people making it about Jewishness when it's not. And here's what I mean. I agreed with your post. You said, look, as a green card holder, when I was a previous green card holder, excuse me, when I had a green card, I was always careful. It's like walking on tiptoes. You don't want to do anything to jeopardize your citizenship. From my understanding, this guy is here on a student visa and he's like a resident, et cetera, et cetera. I get the constitutionalists. I get the people saying he has rights, etc. But here's my point of view. And this is again where people are like, oh, you're just like a Jewish sympathizer.
Yeah.
I don't think any green card holder in America should be participating in any protests whatsoever, especially when it has to do with like foreign policy or something that like doesn't really resonate with you. Okay, this guy, I don't know. Where did he even come from?
That's
Did he
the
come?
thing. Why are our people? I just really quickly.
Yeah.
Why are our people so quick to defend someone that they don't even know if that person himself is another foreign agent?
Yeah.
Why? Because he's pro-Palestine, and all of a sudden you guys are pro-Palestine. You don't even know where this guy comes from. He
Yeah.
had British security clearance. What?
And that's the thing is that
Fuck out of here.
it is to me a little cringe that they're trying to do this under the ruse of anti-Semitism. They're trying to say, well, Donald Trump promised that they were going to crack down on anti-Semitism on college campuses. So the why, I get it. It's a little cringe. It's like, okay, bro, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have to just do it for that. Make it a general rule that if you are here on a student visa or you are here on a green card, whatever the case might be, you do not get to not just participate, but let alone help organize protests in America. And I said this.
Anti-American, because it's
Yeah.
not just, we're not just protesting fluoride in the water. No. Anti-American protests.
Where they're
And-
burning American flags.
Rubio made a point. They had asked him, and Miguel made this comment, but I had read the thing, and one of the things that stuck out to me about Rubio,
I want to post a clip I found, but continue.
one of the things that Rubio said was something along the lines: when you're making an application, when you're applying so that you can get a green card into this country, if you say that you are sympathetic to a terrorist group like Hamas, that you've got an ideology where you hate America, your application would be denied. So the end result is that you entered this country and obtained your visa under false pretenses, which is that you wanted to come to this country because you were fleeing your persecution, because it was a land of the free, because you wanted opportunity, yada, yada, yada. You wanted to go to school here because American schools are so great. If you would have said that you're filled with hate and disdain for this country, your visa would have never been approved. And as a result of the fact that you obtained your visa under false pretenses, which was your appreciation of the greatest country that has ever existed, the United States of America, you don't get those rights anymore. Access denied, revoked.
And that's the thing. So like when people were asking me like, what do you think about this guy? And I'm like, look, man, I get if you are wanting to call it cringe, the fact that they're doing this under anti-Semitism, sure. But the fact still stands. If you are, and I said this, and I don't care how people react to it, if you are in this country because your country could not provide for you, whether it's a higher education or economic reasons, you do not participate in protests, and you do not help organize protests. You know what you do? You wake up every morning. This should be mandatory from here on out. Trump, if you're listening, Trump, if you're listening to this,
Trump, if you can hear us.
Yeah, if you can hear us, Trump, this is what you do. And I would have the police enforce it. I'm not even kidding. You will pledge allegiance every single day, and you will kiss American soil. You will go outside, grab dirt, and you kiss it, and you're like, thank you, God, that I am able to be in this country. You do not get to participate in English. Yeah, it's mandatory, bro. And then the national anthem with the rest of your foreign buddies.
Every day before prayer
Every
time.
single day, bro. I'm not kidding, dude. Like,
I'm sure
you
it
know,
should not either, because I was raised with that level of appreciation for this country,
Absolutely.
coming from immigrant parents that had fled through true political persecution. And but you know, this is probably part of like a bigger conversation too, which is that the conversation nobody wants to have it. Oh my God, it's all paid for propaganda by Israel. I'm sorry, but it's an opportunity for people to look at the fact that Islam is controversial because there's a lot of incompatibility with Christian traditionalism, with just the way the American country, when you have a faith that has a legal code that tells you that if you follow the legal code of America, you are breaking your faith code because you're not getting to practice Sharia law, that's problematic. That's incompatible with the American way of life.
I want to really quick share. What the hell is this? I can't.
Do you have it loaded already? Is this the Shapiro one? Do you want to play? No, which one?
No, I don't know what the hell is going on. What does it say? Google Chrome and Bumble would like to record this computer.
I don't know. Where's the clip? You want to send it to me?
Yeah, I wanted to share real quick the.
Also, did you guys see that Alina Haba just did a 180 on the Tate brothers?
Actually, you want me to play that? I think I have it right here.
That's so funny.
I want to point
It's
out
such a
a couple of things
serious,
about
like,
that
video.
because I've been thinking for a while that this was coming. Number one, and actually, let me take an opportunity while Linda's doing that to go over our super chats. You guys are so sweet. I appreciate you so much. Erica says, Massey's not as principled as people think. Also, the Massey bros are just as annoying as the DeSims. They are. They're one and the same. And I will tell you something. I will say something to this comment, Anthony, where I do have to disagree with you, where you said, like, well, I don't think that he's anti-Israel. I don't, maybe not. But I think that Massey's very well aware of personal branding, of political branding. And he knows who his audience is and who helps him. And I think that he may not be, I don't think that he's necessarily anti-Jew, but I think that he knows what groups of people support him. And this was a comment that I was telling Linda, Linda and I had an opportunity to discuss, which is, I'm actually going to show this screen. I have it here. If you want to airdrop it to me, and then I can just open it up.
Yeah?
Yeah. If you airdrop it to me, it should just open up.
I don't know why my computer.
But you know what's
I want
interesting
to
is
show you
that's
guys
a form of lobbying.
This right here, this tweet is so important. This was news to me. I didn't know this. Thomas Massey tweets, I designed this debt badge to wear in Congress. Hold on, give me a second.
Yeah, he wears it all the time.
He's so
All the
annoying,
time. It counts. It uses Wi-Fi to get the debt to the penny and treasury once per day. I noticed something alarming this week, whatever. And then he goes on about how it had changed. This beeper that you're seeing here, Thomas Massey wears this every single day on the congressional floor. Every single day. And the thing makes noises and it goes off. And he tells stories about how he's been in the elevator with Adam Schiff and the debt chalk that has been going on, and how he calls it the anxiety clock, and everybody knows that he wears this thing.
Those are
So
Twitter pages.
to his wait, let me get out of here too.
Your whole thing is showing, bro.
To the point that I was getting to, he wears this thing all the time. So this is part of his personal branding. Part of his personal branding is that he is anti-debt. He is that guy. So there's also this expectation where people are like, is he going to vote against the CR? Is he going to vote in favor of the CR? I think that a lot of the votes are not necessary. It's because he's feeding his personal brand.
Yeah.
If his brand is, I'm no longer going to contribute to the debt, that's what ends up coming out.
Right.
Well, here's the thing too that you need to understand is you bring up a good point that he's catering to a specific brand of people, or he knows his audience. You got to understand, when you're not taking corporate money or AIPAC money or any kind of money, you got to find your money somewhere. He just came out with a statement saying that within 48 hours of standing up to Trump once again, and that Trump came after him, he was able to raise, without sending a single text message, email, or making a single phone call, he was able to raise over $250,000 from just his online supporters by just saying, look, I am being attacked because XYZ. You don't have to agree with it. I'm telling you guys, like you here on the show, you guys don't have to agree with that. But that was his messaging, and he was able to raise over $250,000. And so, of course, he's going to tap into and he's going to lean into those people, because now those are his people. They're going to keep him in Congress. So whether the thing is you're either going to lean into the corporate lobbies that support you and throw money your way, or you're going to lean into the people donating to you. Why would you not lean into it? So I kind of feel like, yeah, it's not that he's playing naive that like, oh, I didn't know that this is what this meant. He is kind of doing like a dog whistle to the right people, but because he needs those people, right? It's the same thing as like people doing a dog whistle to AIPAC, or doing a tweet saying we need to drill more. Hey, and they probably send that tweet over to their oil lobbyists. Like, hey, did you see my tweet about being pro oil? Hope you guys like it, you know? But at least with him, it's a little bit more genuine in the sense that he's at least appealing to his voters and the people that are going to keep him in office.
With the Marco Rubio, I want you guys to hear. Did you get it?
This one right here?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me pull this up here. Let's play the Rubio.
For us was better.
President Trump appealed to a lot of Americans during his campaign on free speech arguments and not suppressing speech, especially from the government. But your revocation of the green card, to many, is seen as one of the most anti-speech actions a secretary could take with his powers. How do you respond?
Yeah, I mean, when you enter this is an important point, and I'm glad you asked this question. When you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country as on a visitor's visa, okay? You are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities, I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out. It's as simple as that. This is not about free speech. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with. No one has a right to a student visa. No one has a right to a green card, by the way. So when you apply for a student visa or any visa to enter the United States, we have a right to deny you for virtually any reason. But I think being a supporter of Hamas and coming into our universities and turning them upside down and being complicit in what are clearly crimes of vandalization, complicit in shutting down learning institutions. There are kids at these schools that can't go to class. You pay all this money to these high-priced schools that are supposed to be of great esteem, and you can't even go to class. You're afraid to go to class because these lunatics are running around with covers on their face, screaming terrifying things. If you told us that's what you intended to do when you came to America, we would have never let you in. And if you do it once you get in, we're going to revoke it and kick you out.
Damn, bro, that was insane. Actually,
I'm really in my Marco Rubio era, man. Oh,
yeah, what a
just
star.
amazing,
What a
just
star.
amazing.
He was so underrated.
that was so well put.
That was so great. And I was attacked for this too, right? Because I gave my opinion as somebody who was a green card holder. And I've said this many times on private conversations to both of you, that while I was a holder of a freaking green card, I walked on eggshells. My mother reminded me every single day that I was a guest in this country and not a citizen. And if I got a DUI, if I got a traffic ticket, if I got a charge for assault or battery or whatever it was, or if I decided to steal something from the store and catch a charge, I was possibly not going to become a citizen. But these things don't matter to people anymore. And it's clearly not mattering to the right either, because they just want to side with anti-Israel, anti-Jew, pro-Palestinian people. And hey, if that's you, I'm going to keep my opinion. You're not going to bully me into submission like they've tried to do all day on Instagram, calling me a Jewish lover, saying I'm owned by AIPAC, saying I'm owned by the Jews, etc. I'm not going to do it. And here's the other thing. I don't believe that these people are peaceful. I don't believe the story that the left is saying, and Candace Owens and everyone else saying that this guy was just peacefully protesting. And I don't believe this. Why would I believe these people when I saw what they've done during 2020 and all other times? Why? I've seen the videos of these crazy people.
I've seen them on Anthony's page.
I've seen them on your page. I've seen them everywhere.
I've seen.
I
have the text messages from my homie on campus texting us, letting us know shit's wild out here. They're being crazy as shit. And all of the footage is on Anthony's page. You guys just go to Anthony's page and check out all of his footage when he was covering the riots at UCLA.
Yeah, I remember that, dude. Like, I was assaulted. And that's the thing too, is that, like, that's what people don't realize is, look, I don't care. You know, that you have whatever you want to throw a little rally, that's fine if it's within the legal rights.
Don't care.
But you don't get to section off an entire campus location.
Literally
And then
occupying.
that's public space, by the way. And then you deny people. And the question that was being asked was, do you know someone here that can prove that you are anti-Israel enough? And that's literally what the requisitions were. It didn't matter to them if you were Jewish or not Jewish. Didn't matter if you were black. It didn't matter anything. I remember that there was a man that had a family. He had his kids, and he's like, dude, I need to get through. Like, and they're like, well, we can't let you through unless you're for our cause. And he's like, I'm not here for any cause. I need to get through because this is public space. I have a kid that needs to get home. I'm here with my wife. She's pregnant. We're not going to walk all the way around. And they denied this person. So this person called law enforcement, dealt with security, and security is like, we're sorry. The students are in charge. They set the rules. And I'm like, this is insane. And to me, to this point, I'm just like, bro, I don't care what side you're on. You don't get to do that. And I personally witnessed people with Israeli flags trying to get in, and they were denied access. But here I was as an independent journalist, and they'd ask me, what side are you on? And I'm like, I'm just a journalist. I want to communicate with some of the people inside. I wish to record what you guys have to say, why you're here, so that people of my audience can see why you're here. Tell us why you're here. I don't know why you're here. I can guess, there's signs everywhere, but I want to hear directly from the students. Why are you here? Why are you willing to close down the space and risk getting arrested? And they said, sorry, you have to take a position. Then came other journalists, and they were let in right away. And I'm like, why was that guy let in? It's like, oh, because he's Arab. We know that he's on our side. And I'm like, okay, so now you're discriminating against me because I'm Hispanic. So now I'm pissed, And this is where, again, like, people just don't understand. It's like, well, who cares? You know what I mean? It's just Jewish people. Bro, it goes beyond Jewish people. It's American people too. It's people like myself. I was assaulted. I had my property stolen from these pro-Palestine people. It's insane, dude.
That's why I don't believe that they're peaceful. You're not going to tell me, oh, Candace Owens was like, well, we need to look at this propaganda. All he was doing was passing around these little flyers. I don't believe you.
To America.
I don't believe you. I simply don't, because I know how these lefties are. And the majority of those people that are occupying the college campuses, that are going around in the protests, are like the Antifa that we know locally. They're fucking losers. You want me to side with these people
with
because
nothing to lose, and so therefore they're okay with being violent. They're okay with being unruly, with being pests. They're okay with that. I just feel like, you know what, living in America is a privilege, and I
don't want these people here.
I don't want them here. I don't want, if you're not here to appreciate this country, if you're not here to appreciate this country and to assimilate, you need to get out.
I don't care. These are gonna be the next Ilhan Omars of the world. These are gonna be the next Rashida Tlaibs. These are gonna be the next Cori Bush and all the other troublemakers in Congress who are just awful, vile people. This woman, Ilhan Omar, used to live in a UN camp. She used to live in a refugee camp, taking a shit in the grass, literally drinking out of a fucking hole.
In her country,
Eating cow poop.
the sexual mutilation
I mean?
of women is a normal
And then
thing.
she comes to this country to shit on America every single day, and then now and this is the problem. Now her kids hate America. So now we gotta deal with her teenage daughter who's getting coverage in Teen Vogue or whatever teen magazine, Cosmopolitan, I don't know the name. And now she's talking about communism, and now she's the next activist, and she's gonna have kids, and now it's a fucking chain migration of all these anti-American people. I don't think so.
No, and what has she
I don't
said?
think so.
She's actually come out, and
I don't think
they
so.
just recently, which is why is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's trying to come up and get her removed from a committee or another. She was training people. She's come out on video clips talking to Somalis, saying, as long as I'm in Congress, Somalia will be safe. Like, you guys are my priority. Somali interests are my priority, and that's what I'm focused on. And I'm always going to protect Somali interests.
Yeah.
How do we allow that? How do we allow that as a country? Once again, this is America. You cannot be a sitting member of Congress and prioritize the well-being of a foreign nation, particularly an adversary, somebody that's hostile towards us. Somebody that literally chant death to America. All right, so we're getting to the end. I want to give everybody an opportunity to kind of just like go through last kind of.
And a shout out to Emery. Actually, she just gave us a super chat. I always enjoy y'all's content. Love you both. You both have been dying from laughter every day. The Dilly episode was my favorite. That was a really good
That was a
time,
really good
actually.
episode.
It was a really good
Actually, you know what? I want to go over one last thing really quick. I know we've already kept you there for a long time, but I think we need to read the Alina Abba tweet.
You have to put the video.
The video. All right. So give me a second. Let me actually pull this up. I got it. Let me actually pull this up here. And I want you guys to...
La regañaron. She got slapped on the wrist.
Yup.
Alina Haba.
Yup. Yes, she did actually. Yes,
Which
she
we
did.
all. I mean, I thought she was crazy.
I thought inevitably it was going to come, to be honest with you guys.
they-
All right. Whoa.
The accusations against the Tate brothers. The accusations against the Tate brothers are stomach churning. They are disturbing, and as I will say, and I've said many times since then, that is for the court to handle, and they should handle it.
Basically, people have told me you said you're a fan or something like that.
Yeah, that was what I said was it's some great manipulation. So the Tate brothers, have a tremendous social media presence in terms of, and what we were discussing were politics in the UK. He was talking about running, and I am always passionate about people that are vocal against certain things. Now, that is very separate. I want to be very clear than accusations of human trafficking, accusations of anything, rape, whatever the accusations are against them. You have to put that in one bucket. And that really is a very disturbing charge. Now, I don't know the status of it. I'm also a lawyer. I know better than to talk about somebody's case. But I will say that there is no part of me that condones at all that behavior.
Well,
She got the call.
She got the call.
listen.
Shut her down.
Susie
Shut
got on
it
the
down.
phone.
Shut her down.
Susie got on the phone and she's like, let me have a conversation with you, Grinnell and Mr. Roger Stone. And we're gonna have a conversation because Roger had put out a post saying that he stood with the Tates, they're innocent, and then that post is gone.
No. I think he took down that post because he literally tagged Rick Grinnell and said Rick Grinnell got those two out of Romania, blah, 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 which to me was stepping its boundaries, I would say.
Well, because there wasn't any proof that was the case. In fact, it's kind of been a point of contention to me around this entire conversation with the Tates when they came over here that I kept on telling Linda. There's one, the Financial Times was the one who broke the story saying Tate's Trump's campaign in conversation so that Andrew Tate can leave Romania. And that was 2 weeks before he gets on the plane to Florida. And then it sources Rich Grinnell. But in small print, of course, on the bottom of the article, not at the top, not anywhere that you could see it, Grinnell says that there was no conversation worth noting that had taken place. They had seen him and a Romanian, lawmaker had bumped into each other in a hallway and were trying to set a meeting, and that had been the length of it. That obviously by public tweets that were available that he was an Andrew Tate supporter or whatnot, but that there had been no talks.
And then didn't go there to
talk about
intervene
in any capacity. And then 2 weeks later, the plane drives. And I've been telling Linda for a while, one thing that we got to give the Tates is that they've got an incredible PR machine, and they know how to manipulate the news cycles a lot. So it's my belief, it's my personal belief, that the Tates had an anonymous source that gave the claim that Rich Grinnell was helping them get out of Romania. Correct. Well, there's a fake, they claim that there's an anonymous source. He gets on a plane, he came to Florida. I think that was very deliberate. We know through sources that there was a phone call that was coordinated between a Tate ally, Jay Waller, and Barron Trump. It was just a phone call. We can't tell that it was anything that was planned, and more so just something impromptu that had possibly taken place. We've got our own anonymous sources on that. But it seems like Tate really overplayed his hand because he wanted the proximity to the Trump family in order to be able to run with the idea that he had Trump support, that he was very close to the Trump family, things that he said, and it ended up backfiring on him. Now he's going off
I want to answer Karina really quickly, and then we'll get your thoughts, Anthony. So Alina Hava went on the Benny show. This was right after the election, and Benny had Andrew Tate through Zoom on his show as well. And Alina, to me, honestly, she was just like kind of put in the spot, and she's like, "Oh, I'm a fan of yours," and she was like fangirling. I think it was actually a little bit inappropriate for a married woman to be that flirtatious with a man, period, whether it was Andrew Tate or Anthony or our producer. I told her, I said, this makes me uncomfortable. She is a married woman, and she was very flirtatious. So her stance was that she was a fan of Andrew Tate. Now, to play devil's advocate, I think a lot of these people that are very busy trying to save the country in one way or another are not chronically online reading every single thing that Andrew Tate says or does, or not just him, but anybody else in general, right? I don't think that they're there watching a video of him beating up a girl, or they may have heard, they may have seen things, but they're not as involved in these things as
to that point,
Twitter user.
And to that point, where do you think they're getting their sources at? What do you think? Do you think that Tucker Carlson, who was with President Trump on election night and on the inauguration in the Capitol building, do you not think that maybe Donald Trump is getting his information on Andrew Tate from somebody like Tucker, somebody like Candace? And when you look at the coverage that these people have had of the Andrew Tate case, they've ran with the narrative that it's like, oh, it was only TikTok videos that I was managing. So you all have to consider that Trump doesn't follow Murdered by Crayons.
Right.
Like he just doesn't.
No,
I've never even heard of that.
Or any of these people. So the end result is that he's only going to have access to what's within his proximity.
Right.
And if it's what's within his proximity is, I'm getting attacked by the Matrix just like you are, I'm getting accused of being a rapist and child, and he doesn't have access to all these other little tidbits that are out there on the internet, then it's logical. And the assumption that he's taken is, first of all, he's never publicly defended the Tates. Let's just start right there. Donald Trump has never come out and said anything. He's never addressed them. He's never even talked about Andrew Tate.
But I do think that they made Alina take it back, not necessarily because of the human trafficking allegations or the rape allegations. I think really it has to do with Israel, because Andrew Tate is a troll and he's constantly calling people Jew or whatever, and he's very against, openly on Piers Morgan and on other shows, very not openly anti-Israel but very pro-Palestine. So I think that more than any of the allegations, I think it has more to do with them saying, hey, and I've told you this before, Alina Hava's best friend is Ziggy Flicker, who's literally the founder of Jexit, the Jewish what is it called? Walk away from the Democratic Party. And I
also,
was like,
if I just may, I don't know if you guys saw. I don't know if you guys know who Andrew Tate just posted a video that he's hanging out with today.
Yeah, yay.
Exactly.
Today.
So
That was a few days ago.
no, I know, but it is kind of interesting timing to kind of what you're saying.
Right.
You know, I don't think the distancing is necessarily about the human trafficking. I do believe that
No,
now with
it's
Tate
not.
kind of hanging out with some of these controversial figures. Now there's a video that I saw today. I mean, maybe the video was a couple days old, but I saw one where it's the Tate brothers sitting down with Kanye West, and they're talking about escaping the Matrix or whatever, right? And obviously you have Kanye West, who just recently has been tweeting out, KKK looking outfits
A
that were
literal swastika
inspired.
shirt.
Yeah, little swastika shirt. He's talking about potentially dropping like a meme coin that's going to be called like swastika coin or something like that. So I do think that it is interesting timing. The fact that the Tate Brothers have now kind of they've done the rounds with the Dana Whites and the Lena Habas and this is that. Now it's like they're moving over to Ye, and it's kind of like, now we've got to distance ourselves from this guy because
I
he's
have a
hanging
little
out
bit
with
of a different
people.
opinion. I think it's Susie Wiles behind the distance being kept between the Trump administration and the Tate. And I think that it has probably significantly more to do with the fact that DeSantis has used this opportunity to create press around himself by using the persecution of the Tates as, and I use the word persecution. I am going to use the word persecution as a way of lifting himself up for press. But I want to be clear on why I use the word persecution, because DeSantis has a habit of weaponizing the governor's office to go after private institutions and private individuals. You don't have to like it. The Tates are American citizens. They don't have to let the governor know when they come into the state of Florida. Nobody told me because they don't have to. So watching DeSantis for a political power play, weaponize the power of the governor's office and of his AG to go after and find the charges where they don't exist makes me feel some kind of way, because DeSantis had proof that Antifa was fully operational in Miami-Dade for years, not just from us, but from mothers that walked the stage with him and helped him out with his campaign. And when he knew that there was organizations, pro-life organizations getting attacked down here, mothers being harassed, a school board effort in that school board issues that were being looked at, that we reached out to the Attorney General. We were strung along for quite some time of, we'll help you. We had several conversations. We'll help you. We're on this, and nothing ever materialized. So to watch him very selectively weaponize the power of his governor's office to go after the Tate because it's a political power play to get press, and not use it to protect his constituents from far leftist extremist groups like Antifa makes me feel some kind of way.
No, I think that what's happened, Isabella, is you missed the assignment. Everything is a Jew's fault. It's the Jews, dude. It's always them. Now, I'm kidding, of course. But no, I mean, yeah, it is interesting to me when I saw that apology video. Not even so much an apology video, but the whole,
Distancing.
he got the
It was a distancing.
Right.
I also wonder if this has to do with the fact that, as angry as we can be, rightfully, I believe, at Pam Bondi for not releasing the files, I do believe that they are going through them, right? Kash Patel, her. So maybe they've kind of started looking at this web of people, maybe, they finally got across the Tates. They're like, there's some dirt on them, that Epstein had or something like that. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe that has a role to play. 5 years ago?
So.
I just think it's bad optics, honestly. And I think that
for
the
now,
fact that
as long as their case is open,
the fact that we know the nature of the conversation that he had with Barron, and that then he went to the press and he's like, I'm very close to the Trump family. I even spoke to Barron on the phone.
Yeah.
You spoke to Barron once on what seems to be like an impromptu phone call. You're not close to the Trump family. You wanted to give the perception that you were, which seems like PR from you. It seems like PR from DeSantis. And honestly, I don't think that Trump was going to allow himself to be put in a position. I think it's why Donald came out immediately and he's like, no, I'm going to condemn the Tates too. I'm not going to allow you to have this conversation that doesn't really have any merit to the future of our country, the future of the state of Florida. I'm not going to let you take the name of the Tates and monopolize all of the press coverage around what's currently happening to your fight with the Tates.
That's really what's going on. They're using his name for press because he does have a big name and it does draw people, good or bad. And so I think, that's to your point. That's what DeSantis is doing. People got upset when we said that on Twitter. You're defending the Teds. No, we're actually calling out DeSantis, because DeSantis, if you read the investigation on the Tate, it's pretty bizarre, some of the things that they list as a potential criminal. Not the stuff with the women, but other stuff that they have. I just want to also give a shout out to KS. My mother used to say, when things are happening, there is more in mortar than in the pesto. I don't know what that means. Could be my what does that mean?
I've never heard that before.
I've never heard that before.
I'm sorry. I'm from Little Havana in
Yeah.
Miami, and I don't understand the Caucasian vernacular.
Yeah. Thank you, Karina, for sending us a super sticker. And somebody said something about Andrew Tate being a Muslim. He's not a Muslim. He just allegedly converted into Islam, but he's not a Muslim. Both him and Tristan, his brother, are American citizens. They were born here. I don't know where, but they were actually born here. His dad.
No. I
is
think
black.
I think what they're saying is that
That
he's
he
a
converted
religion.
to Islam.
Yeah.
Which he did.
Yeah.
He identifies
Yeah,
as
that's what I said.
Muslim,
that he converted, but you're not a Muslim. You don't have to be a Muslim to be in Islam.
No,
Muslim
it's
is like your race.
Islam. No, it's the same thing.
No, it's not. Is it the same thing?
Yeah, it's like Jewish is Judaism and Christian is Christianity. Muslims are Islam.
People who follow it, practice
Yeah.
Islam.
So
Okay.
yeah, I don't
Doesn't
think they
even
were
say
questioning
Arab.
the
Okay.
where he was
I
born
see.
or anything like that. But yeah,
Alright,
American
so-
citizens.
Sorry, I was wrong about
No,
that.
you're
So
good.
yeah, I guess he is a Muslim.
Wow, rare.
Yeah.
Linda L. Rare.
Yeah, I thought it was.
She's
Rare
like,
Linda L.
it's
I
some
thought it was like
microplastics
a
in her
race,
water.
Guys, let's wrap up the topic. Okay, so what are your finishing on the conversation around the cultural conversation around Israel? What are your closing statements?
Can I get your closing statements now?
Oh, from the
Anthony,
people
go
or
ahead.
from me?
Tell us.
I'm sorry. What was the question? I'm sorry. I thought
As
you were
far as
asking
the
the people.
cultural conversation of what we're watching around Israel, Thomas Massey's popularity because of his opposition of foreign lobbies, what's kind of like your final takeaway of what's happening with the culture and the overall conversation around Israel?
No, I think that you guys brought up a good point, that there are going to be people that latch on to Thomas Massey's anti-Israel stance. I think it's wrongly attached in the sense that he's just a libertarian. That's it. Like, there's nothing more to him. It's not that he's like this ultra base giga Chad. No, nothing. I mean, he's a good looking guy, and I can say that, with no homo, I guess.
No homo.
Right. But and he has a beautiful family, and it's tragic what happened to his wife mysteriously right after that infamous podcast. But I'll let the CIA look into that. But I think that he'll probably run for Senate. I don't know if I agree with Linda, but you know what? You've been right on a lot of things, Linda. So maybe, yeah, he is auditioning for VP, but I know that he did mention that he was looking more into becoming a senator. And in my opinion, becoming a senator outside of maybe president is one of the most powerful positions you can have on this earth, because there's only 100 senators. With Congress, you're one of like 400 and something. And to kind of make that case, I don't know if you guys heard that there was a Democratic congressman that died in Arizona. He lost his battle with cancer. And when I heard his name, I'm like, who? Because it's like there's like almost 500 of these people, so it's hard to keep track of them. But with senators, it's so much easier because, there's only 100 of them. So, I think that there's power in that. So I would be very shocked to see that Thomas Massey runs for anything outside of senator. I think he'll run for senator and become the next, senator of his state. I think he's got the backing, and hopefully the people will continue to support him. And I think that people, that are very anti-Israel only are going to continue to support Massey because his anti-interventionism falls in line with their agenda as well. But I just don't think that Massey is this guy that people are making him out to be. Like a lot of you have said, I've said it from the beginning. There's things I like about him, and there's things that I don't necessarily agree. I don't agree that he supported DeSantis over President Trump for president of the United States. And then there's a couple other things, that I'm not going to necessarily go into them now. But I think he's just a very classic libertarian. And I just would support his non-interventionist way, which is something that I've been on record saying about President Trump. He was the first president that no new wars. That's why I voted for him too. I am just very America first, We need to stop giving our money to foreign countries. Doesn't matter if they're allies or our greatest allies, doesn't matter. And then let's stop funding these wars. Because something that's very interesting, and I'll close with this, is Donald Trump threatened Ukraine in saying, we will no longer send you weapons or money until you come to the table. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Within 24 hours, Zelensky said, I am ready not only for peace, I am ready for a ceasefire. I am ready to give America whatever it needs. And Zelensky said this, by the way, you can Google it. I'm even ready to step down as president if it just means we can end this. So my message is, it's so weird how we have all these wars when America is sending billions overseas, not just in money and aid, but also in weapons. And then the moment it ends, it's like, oh, we no longer believe in our cause anymore. We no longer believe in war. We're actually all about peace now. So it makes people think, would you really be in this war if you didn't have the backing? No, of course not, because you're full of crap. If you're so righteous, if you're so indignant on like, hey, we are really fighting here, then you'll fight to the last man. Which, of course, Zelensky, I don't think he has that support, and I don't think he wants to do that.
Well, that's why he canceled elections. Ale,
of course.
I just want to give a shout out to Ale. She said, I'm late to the party again because YouTube didn't let me know. So I want to let you know that when I logged in, you girls were front and center. We love to hear that because we are trying to get back into the algorithm and get our own our old
numbers. But I mean, we're still
back.
doing good. Our views are still there. Our live audience isn't there, but our views are still there. So we're always so grateful for the support that you guys show us. Thank you for not thinking that we're like Israeli honeypots or I don't know, what else do they accuse
you? They accuse me of everything, dude. At this point,
paid for whatever. Like, we just appreciate your support significantly. Linda, do you have any closing comments on this particular topic?
No, I guess we will see if Thomas Massie is auditioning to be DeSantis's VP. I think we're gonna have a very interesting and kind of chaotic 2026 midterm election, and I think all knives are going to be out for the Florida governorship. I don't know if it's going to be Casey or the other person you have in mind, but we do know that DeSantis will be 100% involved in getting that person elected, and he will not support Byron Donalds. But we can talk about that another day. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.